The following is an Outdoor Channel original production.
My name is Randy Nelson, and in my 35-year career as a fishery officer, I became known as the best investigator in British Columbia.
Just leave him out here to rot.
As a best-selling author, I've contacted hundreds of wardens from all over North America to hear their tales.
Fish and wildlife here. See this? Oh, look at there. We have a warrant to search your premises.
There's blood on the ground.
These are their case files.
Game warden, put your guns on the ground.
Officer down.
You're under arrest.
We don't talk about it. Never talk about it.
Why is that?
It was too painful a memory.
Wayne, you and I know that the job of a game warden can be very fun and exciting, but we also know it can be very dangerous. And you have a very personal story you're willing to share with us.
Yes, Randy, and early on in my career, I was shot in the line of duty.
Saunders was chasing the murderous madman Carl Drega, who had already killed 2 police officers, a judge and a newspaper editor in Colebrook, and now Saunders was in his sights.
I was on duty. It was an August hot day, August 19th, when I heard the call for a stolen state police cruiser.
All officers, be on the lookout for squad car 627, believed to be stolen.
What I didn't know was that this guy had already killed 2 state troopers, my friends, the one that his car was stolen. This guy, and I don't even want to use his name, but he drove a beat-up piece of garbage, so they had planned on taking his plates that day and telling him he couldn't drive on the road. So they had stopped in a grocery store parking lot where he engaged Scott Phillips first and ended up killing him.
Officer. Sir?
You know,
I said stay in the car, please.
I don't think I gave you my registration.
I said stay in the car, please.
Get back in the
court!
And then the responding backup trooper was killed as well, coming into the IGA parking lot. Leslie Lord. So from there, he stole that cruiser after he killed those troopers at the grocery store. And he drove down because he had kind of a beef with one of our local judges as well. He located her, and he gunned her down in cold blood. And one of the editors of the News and Sentinel that shared the same building came out, Dennis Joes, and tried to stop him.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
He wrestled with him. He was overpowered, and then he was shot several times. So he continued on with the stolen police cruiser south as I was coming north, and I met him in the town of North Stratford. He apparently had stopped at his own residence on the way and had set his house ablaze as well. And then he was heading south from there, and when I encountered him, he was taking stolen police cruiser across the river into the state of Vermont, and I actually was coming around the corner and saw the cruiser going into the state of Vermont.
This is Officer Saunders. I'm in pursuit.
Repeat, Officer Saunders, in pursuit.
But as you're doing that, you don't realize that this person has shot 2 police officers, a judge, and another individual.
I have no idea at this point. No, I have no idea of that information at all.
Chasing a stolen car.
stolen police cruiser, so I'm still, you know, it's still pretty high risk, and, you know, thinking, well, how the heck did this happen and things like that. So, but no, I have no idea that he's already murdered 4 people. So I crossed into the state of Vermont. It's a 4-way stop there. There's a store called the Banville's right there. There's a lot of people, and I look straight ahead as far as I can see, and there's nothing. I look to the north, and there's nothing. And I look to the south, and there's a railroad trestle there. And on the other side of the railroad trestle, I see dust in the air. And it indicates to me, as it would most game wardens, that a car just pulled in there. And I know from my experience, just on the other side of that trestle is a long, dead-end driveway, which is, I'm thinking, the person's trying to get up and hide in that driveway. I kind of go very slowly underneath the trestle. And as I go slowly under there, I can see that state police cruiser kind of parked kitty corner. And near the trunk is a person in a state police Stetson, so the flat-brimmed hats, with a gun pointed at me. And at this point, when you talk about, everybody talks about things go slow. At this point, things start going slow for me. There's the noise, and the impact hits me, and I didn't know it at that point, but the bullet had hit my badge. And it went in my bicep and out my shoulder, and my arm is laying in my lap, and I can't move it. So through training and stuff, you know, I remember getting down behind the engine. The engine's probably the best source of cover you have. So I actually put it in reverse, and I do this slowly and intentionally, which is really strange. And I back up slowly. I look out the window, and there's that DeVanville store right there. And I roll up and I cut around so he can't see me. I'm just basically giving myself cover. But I look up, and on the porch is people having lunch, and there's quite a passel of people. And I yell at them,
"Get out of here! Get out of here!"
And about the time I finish yell, "Get out of there," I can hear more rounds coming through my cruiser. And that's when my adrenaline dumped. And I stepped on that reverse, and I laid rubber right across that 4-way intersection. And I hit this big, huge tree when the back of my cruiser backed right into it. But on the other side of that embankment is the Connecticut River. So that tree actually probably saved me from flying off the bank 20 feet high in the air. So I hit that, and it broke that tree, and the cruiser was hanging on the bank of this river with probably a 15-foot drop. And I'm right there. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, now what? I have my shotgun, which is a pump shotgun, really close to me. I always used to carry it right there. And I look at it, and I look at my arm, and my arm, I keep thinking to myself to try to move my arm, and my arm's not moving.
It can't move.
It's paralyzed. There's nothing going on with my arm. So now I'm thinking I got to get out of here, because he's going to be coming to make sure.
How far away is the shooter at this point?
When we initially shot, he was probably 25 feet away.
And
we were
the
close.
bullet came, what, through the windshield?
First shot was through the windshield. All 7 other shots were through the windshield. And he had a nice cluster right in the seat, too. I mean, it's amazing how many shots went through there and how accurate they were. But I was laying down.
So you've hit the tree. You can't move your arm. Is it backup on the way? Any chance?
There's been no radio communication. The only radio communication is when I was going into Vermont, I radioed the county that I saw the state police cruiser, and I was following it into Vermont, and I gave them an update, and they acknowledged that, and that was the end of my radio transmissions. So
So what, this guy, is he approaching you as you're on this?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know,
Because you're laying down on the seat?
Yeah, but at this point, I'm up again now, and I'm moving. I'm thinking I got to get out of here because he's going to focus on my cruiser that's hanging there. So I unbuckle my safety belt, I open the door, and I get out of it, but I drop like 15 feet down this steep bank. And I've got my handgun out, and I just remember how slippery it was. I had blood all over my hand, and trying to hold my handgun, it was like if you put, maybe vegetable oil in your hand and try to hold a gun. That's what it felt like to me, because it was very extremely slippery. And then I start breathing, and my breathing was so loud. I remember, try to settle down, he's gonna hear you breathing, and I am like panting. And nothing's coming, and I hear my name being yelled out.
Wait! 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 Over here!
And it's a local officer, Steve Breton, and he's yelling at me.
Over here! Wayne, I'm here. I'm here. Here. Okay. You hit? Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna get you out of here. All right. Your arm? All right. Can you move? Yeah. All right. Just stand up. All right. I'm gonna get you out of here. Over my shoulder. 1, 2, 3. Up. We're moving. All right. Keep going. Almost there. Almost there.
So Steve commandeers a Jeep Cherokee and gets the guy to drive us to the hospital. And the whole way up, he keeps telling me, I'm not going to die, I'm not going to die. And I kept telling him, Steve, I know I'm not gonna die. But reflection on this 20-something years ago, I never saw what Steve saw. I mean, here he is.
You probably haven't even had time to look down at it.
I really haven't.
You're thinking survival.
I'm thinking survival, and police officer responded, there's blood all over me. My badge, I don't even, it's actually impacted into my chest. It is stuck in my chest. I got blood everywhere. And I never realized till, quite recently, probably a few years ago, what Steve was seeing that day, because I wasn't seeing that. And when we got to the town where the hospital was, he was up on the edge of the doorway there, hanging out the window, yelling and screaming for people to get out of the way as the guy is blowing on the horn to get me to the hospital. I get to the hospital, and this is where I'm starting to learn that other law enforcement officers have been shot and stuff.
This fellow's telling you that on the drive to the hospital?
No, he hasn't. He's not telling me anything. When I get at the hospital, they're all hands-on. They whisk me away into the ER, and then they start, taking. And I had a, brand new pair of boots, and I was a fairly young officer, and there were a couple under all the pairs of boots, and I start yelling because they start talking about cutting my boots off, and I'm like, don't cut my boots, And the next thing I know, my lieutenant's there and he's unlacing my boots. He's like, they're not gonna cut your boots, just settle down. And then I see him and I'm like, I just got his cruiser. And I'm like, sorry, Lieutenant, your cruiser's a mess. I just wrecked your cruiser. And
You're apologizing for wrecking a vehicle.
I am, and he kind of chuckles and says, don't worry about it, And my badge was actually stuck in my chest, so the impact had put it in my chest, so it was embedded. The exit point was in my shoulder, and you can see, there's, that's the entrance point after it hit my badge in my bicep and exited my shoulder. So the trauma that I had there. They did fly me out to another, major trauma center, and that's kind of an interesting law enforcement game warden story too, because the game warden that met the helicopter, the nurses on the flight said, hey, we're gonna just take the sheet over and put it over your head so, all the press is here, so they'll be taking pictures and we don't want them to take your face. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But I didn't realize that the law enforcement, specifically the sergeant that was meeting there, when he saw me rolled out of the helicopter with a sheet over my head, was devastated. He had thought I was dead. So, yeah, so that was, so we rolled in the hospital and an operation to remove all the shrapnel in a 3-day stint. And then I find out that this madman had killed, 2 state police troopers, a judge, and one of the local newspaper people, Dennis Jose.
Did you know the state troopers?
I did. They were very good friends. I'd worked with one 2 days before. I'd gone to a wedding with him that weekend. We had done an investigation up in a remote area. He wanted 4-wheel drive to get up there, so we asked if we could get up together and work on the investigation together. Scott Phillips and I had jumped in the cruiser and had worked that day. Yeah, they were both good friends, for sure. Coffees in the morning. A lot of rural areas, everybody knows everybody, and the police work together, whether you're state police, whether you're a game warden, whether you're border patrol. There was border patrol involved in this. We were close to the Canadian border.
So you're on the way to the hospital and getting taken care of. What's happening with this, the assailant, the guy that shot you and killed these 4 other people?
After my incident, he continued on and he set up a second ambush.
Wow.
So he had parked the state police cruiser and had taken his shirt and put it over the steering wheel. And
to make it look like he's in there?
To make it look like he's in there and maybe committed suicide as it was draped up on the dash. So they would see inside, they would see his shirt laying there, and he was up on the bank with a gun.
Did you find out what kind of gun it was he had?
It was a AR-15.
So pretty high power.
Yeah, I was shot with a .223 round or a .556. So, and I didn't know that. The impact of hitting that badge, it felt like a shotgun round. I swear, I never would have thought a gunshot would have that impact. And I think it's because it hit such a solid surface and did that ricochet that I was actually pushed back into my seat in the first round.
So he's set up another ambush.
Mm-hmm.
Now what happens then?
So the local farmers that actually own this area are now kind of looking for him too, and they see the state police cruiser, and they go up and they tell what is now being formed as a command post there. And they start forming teams to go down into there to address it. The first team that goes down has a canine, fortunately. And they get not quite into the pocket where he wants the killing zone, I'll call it. And the dog alerts. The dog alerts up on the hill and he starts barking. They start taking rounds and 2 more guys get hit. A state police officer gets hit and a border patrol agent gets hit. And they go down. And now they form a emergency evacuation team, so to speak. And they take a sheriff's car down there and back it in and are shooting cover. And they start taking rounds again, and they're starting to put rounds up on those hills. A border patrol agent and a state police trooper hit him simultaneously because there are 2 bullet holes in him.
And that ended?
That ended that. So, and there was game wardens going down to rescue those people. One of the game wardens actually had a hole in his top of his lapel there, but they evacuated those 2 guys. And when I was down at the hospital, those 2 guys were in the hospital with me. And to this day, we're good friends. To go through an incident like that and survive a career, and all of us retired in law enforcement.
He's spent almost his entire career protecting the state's natural beauty and has lived to tell a story that very few can share. Lieutenant Wayne Saunders is retiring from New Hampshire Fish and Game after 23 years. A job that put the bite on him when he met a game warden while hunting grouse with his father at age 6.
And I'm like, who was that? It's like, that's a game warden, but I always called him the cowboy in the woods because he had the Stetson on. So, and I told my dad, I want to be the cowboy in the woods. The recovery, yeah, about a year before I went back to work.
I guess.
And
a lot of people wouldn't have.
Yeah, but I always wanted to be a game warden.
So you go back to work and get back in shape and
and I didn't want him to be able to take that away from me.
I'm so thankful that you recovered and continued on, but whatever happened to the badge?
The badge, it's mounted and it's in our headquarters at New Hampshire Fish and Game.
So they have it on display.
They have it on display.
With your story.
With my story, and we're a little commemorative to those officers and judge that died in the line of duty that day. It was probably one of the first mass shootings, I guess, you know, to hit the papers. And
horrible day in any community, but
yeah,
that's a small place.
It's a very small town, and it had a wide-ranging, you know, people in the area almost consider it like a 9/11 because they always remember the day that happened, where they were. Very similar to a 9/11. I think everybody remembers where they were on 9/11. Yeah, it was one of those days for the North Country of New Hampshire.
That must be a tough day when it comes around on the calendar every year.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, for sure.
The badge probably saved your life.
The badge saved my life.
There's no doubt about it.
There's no way about it. Absolutely.